Helen Margaret Wexler vanished on the evening of June 15, 2023, leaving behind buckwheat porridge simmering on the stove, midday tea in a thermos with a cracked lid, and a pink moleskin notebook open to a page listing vaccination schedules for third-grade Class B. Every aspect of her life had been meticulously organized, literally. Medications in the emergency supply closet stood alphabetized, each container labeled with self-adhesive stickers marking the opening date. The nurse's office phone had speed dial buttons labeled Extension 1, Principal, 2, Paramedics, 3, County Health Department. Even the dust in McKinley Middle School's hallways seemed to obey her order, settling in ruler-straight layers as if policed by invisible lines. She had joined McKinley Middle in 1995, back when cracks in the walls could still be blamed on the building's age rather than budget cuts. Over the years, the school cycled through 4 principals, 3 generations of students, and 12 blood pressure monitor models. Colags recognized her voice outside the nurse's office by 3 signature phrases. Don't swallow pills standing up. Breathe through your nose, Bryant. And ice pack, not bare ice on the knee. Each morning at precisely 7:15 a.m., she weighed herself on a Toledo digital scale with gram-level precision, logging results in her health journal. On April 18, 2011, her weight plateaued at 134.9 lbs, 2 mugs of coffee instead of 1. September 9, 2017, 131.6 lbs after battling norovirus. On the day she disappeared, the scale flickered to 136.6 lbs, her highest weight in a decade. Helen's perfectionism operated like clockwork, every gear spinning in calibrated rhythm. Lock checks took exactly 7 minutes, 3 tugs per handle, her left palm always shielded by an alcohol wipe. Classroom inspections consumed 44 minutes, the precise interval between bell periods. Even the nitroglycerin tablets in her lab coat pocket sat inside a plastic case labeled HW, the label facing the zipper. Staff joked that if you set your watch by her schedule, the atomic clock in Tokyo would blush at its inaccuracy. Custodian Linda Garcia, whose mops never strayed within 10 feet of the nurse's office, once described her as a robot with maternal instincts. Parent Alice Brennan, catching Helen portioning asthma meds into Ziploc bags, compared her to a nun counting rosary beads. Security guard Frank Mueller, on duty the night of June 15th, later confessed over bourbon shots. Sometimes I swore she even breathed on a schedule. 4-second inhale, 6-second exhale. But behind this flawless facade lay fractures Helen had papered over with routine. Hypothyroidism demanded daily levothyroxine. Menopause at 60 required progesterone. Angina meant sublingual nitroglycerin for rapid heartbeats. Starting April 2023, her Tuesday and Thursday mornings included hydazepam, strictly half a tablet, the remainder hidden behind a jar of peas in her fridge. Otherwise, I'll get addicted, she'd scrawled on April 12th above a 6th-grade immunization chart in her journal. Helen's personal life mirrored an archive curated by catastrophe. Husband Harry, who died of pancreatic cancer in 2015, requested his ashes be scattered over the school stadium, the site of their 1992 parent-teacher conference Meet Cute. Son Ethan, killed at 18 in a Linden Avenue and Hill Street intersection, the very roads framing McKinley, left behind only biology textbooks and a blue teddy bear. The O'Connell twins, whom she babysat since 2019, became unintended replacements. Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., Helen buttoned Max into the blue plaid shirt and triple-checked Molly's hair bow. She called them my grandbabies. Their grandmother, Beatrice O'Connell, 85, later said, shuffling photos marked M&M on the back. Physical traces of her decline filled journal margins. A bony protrusion on her right wrist from constant report writing, first noted winter 2018. A left knee click climbing stairs, logged March 3, 2021. Sweaty palms during crises, like discovering missing bandages from first aid kit or 7. Epinephrine 0.1%. Expiration October, she'd written June 14th, underlining thrice. That same day, the page edge bore a scribble. Why won't Linda look me in the eye? Her Peach Street home in Wilmington, Delaware, entered nightly at 9 p.m. sharp, resembled a museum of her own existence. Fridge magnets from a 2003 Miami vacation framed Ethan's teddy bear photo. Closets held neat stacks of embroidered blue scrubs. Her bedroom displayed a calendar marking shifts at the Help Plus shelter. Even meals followed code: 7 Oz buckwheat, 5.3 Oz boiled chicken, 3 broccoli florets. No deviations. But on June 15th, the white Westinghouse stove ignited at 9:47 p.m. A systems glitch that might have gone unnoticed had she not abandoned a scorched pot. Her final day began routinely, weighing in, medication inventory, lunchbox with Granny Smith apple slices. At 3:30 p.m., she asked Frank Mueller to unlock storage room B12 to check glucose ampule expirations. At 6:05 p.m., she washed her hands 5 times after changing Sam Carter's bandage. At 9:03 p.m., breaking routine, she stayed late to file a missing diazepam report. Chaos's first ripple. At 10:15 p.m., her trembling voice echoed from the supply room. You won't even look at me, Linda. 3 hours later, Bosch Dinian cameras captured a woman in blue scrubs at the service exit, her Kenneth Cole bag tilting right, where alcohol wipes always sat. But the footage looked too pristine for Delaware's dusty winds, too sterile for someone who'd spent 30 years collecting shards of lives in pink notebooks. Helen Margaret Wexler vanished, leaving rituals without their conductor. Like a clock stopped at midnight, pendulum shattered. The parent-teacher conference at McKinley Middle School began at 7:30 p.m. on June 15th, with Helen Wexler conducting her final medication inventory of the day. According to the sign-in log, 23 parents attended the session in the main auditorium. Security footage from the hallway cameras shows Helen making her routine evening rounds at 7:45 p.m., checking first aid stations in 3 separate classrooms before returning to her office. Custodian Linda Garcia, who had been buffing floors in the West Wing, reported seeing Helen near the chemistry lab's medical supply cabinet at approximately 8:15 p.m. Garcia later told investigators that Helen appeared more focused than usual as she counted items in the Red Cross-labeled metal cabinet. The medication log, found the following day on Helen's desk, contained an entry marked 8:20 p.m., noting a discrepancy in the diazepam inventory: 23 tablets instead of the expected 26. During the conference intermission at 8:45 p.m., several parents observed Helen checking her silver Timex wristwatch repeatedly. Parent Alice Brennan, seated in the 3rd row, recalled Helen standing abruptly and walking toward the gymnasium's first aid station. Security cameras captured her entering storage room B12 at 8:52 p.m., the same location where emergency medications were secured in combination locked safes. The timeline becomes unclear between 9 and 9:30 p.m. Frank Mueller, the evening security guard, noted in his logbook that he heard raised voices coming from the storage area during his 9:15 p.m. rounds. When questioned by detectives, Mueller described the voices as belonging to 2 women. One sounded upset, the other defensive. He did not investigate further, assuming it was a parent-teacher discussion that had moved to a private area. Linda Garcia provided conflicting statements about her whereabouts during this period. Initially, she claimed to have been cleaning the cafeteria from 9 u to 9:45 p.m. However, her keycard access records show she entered storage room B12 at 9:18 p.m. and remained there for 11 minutes. When confronted with this evidence, Garcia admitted to a confrontation with Helen regarding missing medications. According to Garcia's revised statement, Helen accused her of taking diazepam from the chemistry lab supply, producing a pink notebook filled with inventory discrepancies dating back to March. The argument escalated when Helen discovered a torn diazepam wrapper in Garcia's cleaning supplies. Garcia denied the theft but acknowledged that she had been experiencing anxiety issues and had considered asking Helen about obtaining medication through proper channels. The confrontation ended when Garcia knocked over a shelf of cleaning supplies while attempting to leave the room, spilling chlorhexidine solution on Helen's scrubs. Following the conference's conclusion at 10 p.m., Helen remained in the building to complete incident reports. Her handwriting in the official log, reviewed by forensic document examiners, showed increasing irregularity after 10:15 p.m., suggesting heightened stress or fatigue. The final entry, timed at 10:35 p.m., documented the missing diazepam and recommended immediate disciplinary action against Garcia. Alice Brennan, one of the last parents to leave, encountered Helen in the parking lot at approximately 10:40 p.m. Brennan later described Helen as visibly shaken, clutching her Kenneth Cole tote bag tightly against her chest. When Brennan inquired about Helen's well-being, Helen responded that she was dealing with personnel issues and needed to return home to check on something urgent. Helen's final logged activity at the school occurred at 10:45 p.m., when her keycard was used to access the main building one last time. Security footage shows her retrieving items from her office, including personal belongings and what appeared to be a small stuffed animal. She was observed placing these items carefully in her tote bag before exiting through the main entrance. The drive to her Peach Street residence typically took 12 minutes. However, Helen's home security system, which logged entry and exit times, shows no record of her arrival that evening. Her neighbor, Margaret Foster, reported seeing lights in Helen's kitchen window around 11 p.m., but could not confirm whether Helen was home. When police conducted a welfare check the following morning, they discovered Helen's white Westinghouse stove still burning on the highest setting, with an empty pot containing burned residue that forensic analysis later identified as buckwheat porridge. The evening's events culminated with security cameras capturing an unidentified figure in medical scrubs near the school's service entrance at 11:47 p.m. The timestamp discrepancy, showing footage nearly an hour after Helen's documented departure, would become a central focus of the investigation. Phone records indicate that Helen's cellular device last connected to the nearest tower at 11:33 p.m., approximately 14 minutes before the mysterious footage was recorded. The Bosch Dinian camera mounted above McKinley Middle School's service entrance detected motion at 11:47 p.m. on June 15th. The surveillance system captured a figure in blue medical scrubs approaching the door, which remained open for 47 seconds. Digital enhancement revealed embroidered initials HW on the collar and what appeared to be an ink stain on the left sleeve, details consistent with Helen Wexler's work attire. However, forensic meteorologist Dr. Sarah Chen identified a critical anomaly in the footage. Weather station data confirmed sustained winds of 25 miles per hour that evening, with particulate matter from ongoing construction at the adjacent vacant lot. According to Dr. Chen's analysis, any individual outdoors for more than 30 seconds would have accumulated visible dust particles on their clothing. The figure in the surveillance footage showed no such contamination, appearing pristine despite the harsh weather conditions. Security guard Frank Mueller began his standard midnight rounds at 12:12 a.m. as documented in the official logbook. His inspection route included storage room B12, where Helen had confronted Linda Garcia hours earlier about missing medications. Mueller's written report described the building as unusually quiet, noting that the HVAC system, which typically generated significant noise, was completely silent. During his interview with investigators, Mueller acknowledged omitting certain observations from his initial report. The security guard's supplemental statement, provided 3 days after Helen's disappearance, revealed additional findings from his 12:21 a.m. check of the nurse's office. Mueller discovered a shattered blood pressure monitor on Helen's desk and noticed that left unlocked, something Helen hadn't done even during fire drills. Either she forgot, or someone wanted it to look like she did. Most significantly, Helen's apartment key, which she always kept on a hook labeled emergency evacuation, was missing, an unusual lapse for someone so pathologically organized, especially considering her home used fingerprint access and no longer required a key. Crime scene technicians processing the nurse's office recovered Helen's blue lab coat from its usual hook. But the garment contained only a single school key labeled B7 in the pocket. The absence of Helen's distinctive scalpel-shaped keychain concerned Principal Williams, who described it as Helen's lucky charm since a critical student medical emergency in 2003. Forensic analysis of the coat revealed no signs of struggle or forced removal. Near the service entrance, investigators discovered microscopic traces of an unusual substance on the floor mat. Laboratory analysis identified the material as a combination of lysergic acid and morphine compounds, substances that would not typically be found in a school environment. The positioning of these traces suggested they had been deposited by someone exiting the building rather than entering. Digital forensics specialist Maria Santos identified several irregularities in the surveillance footage itself. Frame-by-frame analysis revealed a shadow in the upper left corner at timestamp 11:49:03, a rounded shape that multiple witnesses, including Alice Brennan, identified as resembling the teddy bear that had been visible in Helen's tote bag earlier that evening. Advanced compression analysis ruled out digital artifacts, confirming the shadow represented a physical object. The investigation uncovered evidence of potential tampering with the school's security system. Frank Mueller's initial review of the surveillance footage at 11:30 p.m. showed only an empty parking lot with no unusual activity. However, when the same footage was examined at 11:50 p.m., it contained the mysterious figure in scrubs. The server room housing the surveillance equipment was protected by an electronic keypad lock, with the access code changed on June 14th, known only to Helen and the IT administrator, who was confirmed to be vacationing in Barbados. During his final security check at 12:45 a.m., Mueller discovered that the basement door, which was typically secured with a padlock, stood slightly ajar. Forensic investigators later recovered blue cotton fibers from the door frame, matching the material composition of Helen's medical scrubs. However, examination of the basement stairs revealed no footprints or other evidence that anyone had descended into the lower level. Garbage truck driver Roger Smith, whose route passed the school at approximately 11:55 p.m., provided a statement describing a silver Toyota Camry in the parking lot that matched Helen's vehicle. Smith noted that the license plates appeared obscured, either by mud or missing entirely. When police located Helen's Camry the following morning, it was parked in her usual spot near the fence, but the fuel tank was completely empty despite records showing she had purchased gasoline that afternoon. Technical analysis of the surveillance system revealed a significant timing discrepancy that investigators could not explain. Frank Mueller confirmed syncing the camera's clock with his phone at 11 p.m., an 8-second gap. By 11:47, that gap had grown to 12 minutes. Either the system was tampered with, or someone misread time entirely. Computer forensics experts described this as technically impossible without sophisticated manipulation of the recording system. The final frame captured by the surveillance system before it shut down at 12:30 a.m. showed a small ceramic fragment near the service entrance threshold. Laboratory analysis confirmed the material matched Helen's scalpel-shaped keychain, which had been crafted by former students as a gift. Forensic technicians detected residue consistent with contact lens solution on the fragment's edges, despite the fact that Helen wore prescription glasses and had no history of contact lens use. The physical evidence raised fundamental questions about the night's events. If the figure captured on surveillance was indeed Helen, The absence of environmental contamination on her clothing suggested she had not been outdoors in the documented weather conditions. If the footage had been manipulated, the perpetrator would have required sophisticated technical knowledge and physical access to secured systems. Most puzzling was the recovery of Helen's apartment key from the school grounds, given that her residence utilized fingerprint recognition technology rather than traditional locks. Detective Martinez tapped his ballpoint pen against the desk exactly 12 times as he scrolled through the Bosch Dinian camera calibration report. 12 minutes. That's how much the parking lot surveillance footage preceded Frank Mueller's smartphone data. A cybercrimes unit engineer threw up his hands. NTP server sync delays create an 8-second margin max. Either the footage was tampered with or... He trailed off, eyeing Martinez's watch, the same Citizen EcoDrive model that had hung in Helen's office. Linda Garcia white-knuckled a dust rag when shown the torn page from a pink notebook. The top half showed Helen's neat handwriting about camera malfunctions and missing diazepam supplies. The jagged, teeth-marked lower edge bore 3 words. It wasn't Linda. The custodian's fingerprints glared from the scrap. I never touched her notebooks. Linda's voice trembled, but her gaze locked onto an empty hydazepam bottle in the corner. The prescription label listed Dr. James Kovach from Wilmington Memorial Clinic, DE. Problem was, Helen had never been a patient there. A pharmacist at Broad Street Pharmacy in Newark, NJ, pulled up records. Helen's last pickup on June 14th was levothyroxine and nitroglycerin. Hydazepam wasn't in her file. So someone planted it, Martinez concluded, squinting at the barcode. Fake? No. The medication was genuine. Dr. Kovach, a 72-year-old neurologist, shrugged. I prescribed it to Mrs. O'Connell for her home aid. Her niece picked it up 3 days ago. Security footage showed a woman in a baseball cap and sunglasses matching Helen's height. But why would she buy sedatives under another name? Forensic analyst Soto traced the red ink smears on the torn page. Spectral analysis detected potassium chlorate, a compound used in pyrotechnics and disinfectants. Weird, she frowned. KClO3 degrades paper within hours. But this texture's pristine, like the ink neutralized itself. The only match was a 1940s school ledger from Riverside High's archives detailing wartime medical shipments. The librarian recalled Helen checking it out last week. Said it was for research on missing meds. As drills whined, detectives breached the server room. The June 15th access log was blank, wiped clean at 11:30 p.m. Pro job, a tech muttered. Requires admin privileges. The authorized list included Frank Mueller, the facilities manager, and Helen Wexler. Martinez reread her June 12th journal entry. Mrs. O'Connell asked me to fix her router. Strange smell from the CPU, like melted plastic. During her third interrogation, Linda recalled. That night, after the argument, I saw someone carrying a blue scrubs top to the laundry. Thought it was Helen. Laundry logs showed no machines running past noon. No detergent traces were found on the fabric. Could there be a duplicate set? Soto asked, zooming in on surveillance stills. The scrubs hung loosely on the figure. Alice Brennan, reviewing the footage, hesitated. Her teddy bear keychain's missing. Or is that a different bag? Shadows deepened when the lab flagged discrepancies. It wasn't Linda. Handwriting didn't match Helen's. A graphologist noted shaky T crossbars, signs of stress or haste. DNA on the paper scrap revealed Linda's skin cells and traces of fluorescin, an ophthalmic dye. Helen had a documented allergy to it. Someone wore her gloves? Martinez muttered, piecing together contradictions. The final nail came yesterday. A Wilmington General ER medic testified Helen called June 14th asking about KClO3 overdoses. "I warned her it's lethal," he said. She laughed. "Relax, Ben. I'm an RN. Just testing old sterilization tricks." The desk clock ticked louder, counting down 12 lost minutes. In the camera's blind spot, among broom bristles shedding like snakeskin and half-empty bottles of Mr. Clean, lay the buffer zone between order and chaos. The paper hid beneath a garbage bag, a corner of pink sheet protruding like a child's tongue taunting the investigator. Forensic specialist Miranda Coity lifted the page with illuminated tweezers. The bulb flickered as if amused by the joke. At the top, Helen's clerk-neat handwriting, letters regimented as soldiers. 10:15 p.m. Linda took pills. Set camera in B12. Don't forget to check stove. The unfinished S in set. Ink drained mid-stroke. Confirmed urgency. Helen always replaced pen cartridges before they ran dry. Evidence of a disrupted ritual. Below, a shaky scrawl as if penned by another. The tower clock reads 7, but the cat still begs for eggs. Gel ink bled into Rorschach blooms. The G in begs split into a feline pupil. Lab tech Victor Lee froze mid-spectral analysis, test tube in hand. KClO3, sodium nitrate, found in match heads. You check her stash? Detective Ben Rowley recalled the matchbox with scribbled labels. Told her it was a hazard. Helen collected vintage matches like museum artifacts, security blankets, sniffed sulfur to detect gas leaks. But this KClO3 came not from friction, but ink-soluble particles. She'd mixed chemicals into her pen. A deranged DIY cocktail. The Pittsburgh PD crime lab confirmed the timeline. Both notes, Helen's, 35 minutes apart. MAC analysis margin, plus 120 seconds. A wounded bird thrashing inside her. Mrs. Wexler in a blue smock vers Helen in red ink. Did she write this here? Ben swept his flashlight across the storage room walls. No desk, just a rusted pipe beneath the window. Microfibers from her smock clung to the metal's edge. Forensic document examiner Marcy Evans noted. Top text. Vertical pressure, classic desk posture, bottom, diagonal pulls as if she was holding the paper against a wall with an unsteady hand. Helen returned to B12 half an hour later, trembling as she pressed paper to wall. Why? The white Westinghouse stove's ambiguity offered no answers. Linda Garcia's fingerprints peppered the pages back. Her left index fingernail had scratched "Lind" over the first entry. Detective Collins shrugged. Could have torn it during an argument, or tried snatching it from Helen. Linda swore she hadn't entered the storage room after 10:20 p.m. XRF spectrometry detected Comet toilet cleaner under her nails. Her schedule listed restroom duty at 10:30 p.m. She'd been busy elsewhere. Cyber Division Agent Smith flagged an anomaly. Camera B12 had looped a 47-minute clip, shadows frozen from 10:00 to 10:47 p.m. Faking this requires server access, or physical tampering. Linda had server room keys. If she'd erased the real footage, she crafted an alibi. But why leave Helen in B12, knowing her smock was on camera? Dr. Keller, Helen's psychiatrist, decoded the cat. Muccio, her son Ethan's pet, died a week after his car crash. All feline references in her journals tie to guilt. Begs for eggs recurred 9 times in 2001. Helen believed the cat sought vengeance. But the tower clock, McKinley High, 200 Liberty Ave, Pittsburgh, PA, has no clock tower. The B12 first aid kit sat 3 steps from an attic hatch overlooking City Hall. Its carillon showed 7 when Alice Brennan reported seeing a blue teddy bear. 7. A number she'd circled obsessively in old journals. Could it signal confusion? A loop in her memory? Red ink led nowhere. KClO3 and sugar burn blue. If Helen mixed them with water, the pen's bulb could have flashed like a beacon. Lab tests proved the compound emitted faint light when oxidized. Why self-illuminate? If you see this, check the stove. A cipher no one cracked. 2:00 a.m. Flashlight beams crawled across B12's walls. Ben reenacted scenarios. Helen writes the first note standing, leaves for the kitchen. Returns 35 minutes later, hands shaking. Between what? A failed ink ignition signal? Accidental potassium chlorate ingestion? The first aid kit's missing potassium permanganate. Desperation? IR imaging revealed hidden symbols. Between cat lines, microdots formed 11:47 p.m. Camera timestamp. If Helen predicted her parking lot exit, how? No watch was found. Mrs. O'Connell recalled, she said her internal clock outswissed Rolex. Paradox, body time versus distorted footage. Lieutenant Gray dismissed theories. Hydazepam burnout plus heat stroke, shock hallucinations. But handwriting doesn't lie. She was lucid. Question, where'd the 35 minutes go? No traces in storage. Maybe Helen climbed the attic vent. Fresh scratches on the grate. 12 meters, 40 feet, along the gutter to the service exit. Doable in 2-3 minutes wearing a smock. But the 11:47 p.m. timestamp wasn't her? Final clue. Diamond dust on the page's edge. No glass-cutting tools nearby. Just shards of Helen's rhinestone comb. Did she scratch a third message? The scalpel keychain was missing. 3:14 a.m. Ben sealed evidence into a blue folder. 2 notes, 1 author. Between them, a 35-minute labyrinth. Linda sobbed by the server room, repeating, "She told me to trash it all." The phrase wasn't in the notes. A Kenneth Cole handbag, hydazepam vial, and pink page. 3 keys rotating in empty locks. The white Westinghouse stove ticked, the only sound left from a woman whose world once ran on order and clocks. Now, only time remained, but no one knew whose.